Colorado weather is unique. We get blistering sun, freezing snow, sideways rain, intense wind, and frequent golf ball sized hail. And your house takes the brunt of it 24/7, 365. Hi, I'm Ben Landusky with Foothills Painting, and we've been painting homes across Colorado for over 15 years. Today I'm going to show you how to assess your home, how to find the areas that get hit the hardest, and most importantly, how to fix those areas. So let's get started. If you look up there, you've got some kind of discoloration below that window there, above the roof line, below the window. Basically what's happening there, the sun is beating down on the siding and breaking up the resins and the hardeners in the paint, which then distorts the pigment. What you get is basically a chalky kind of film on the siding. What happens is then when the water comes in, it'll start to run down the home and it'll start to warp the boards, which leads to having to replace siding. So what we recommend doing for those areas is, first of all, a thorough power wash, just to clean off all the dirt and debris, but also to get that chalky paint off. If you paint over like just the chalky film paint, obviously it's not gonna adhere as well. And so you've got to remove that. Then do a nice top coat. You want to use high level paint in Colorado just because of how intense our weather is. You do want to use a high level paint, something like, Sherwin-Williams Duration or Sherwin-Williams Emerald to seal up your house. North sides in Colorado have several different issues. One is, since they don't get a lot of sun, water stays around a lot longer. And so one thing it can actually do is rot trim quite fast. This particular home doesn't have too many horizontal ledges, but it does have one here on this north side. So if you see what's happening here is you've got a horizontal ledge where water, snow kind of sits there and just soaks into the board 24/7, right? Once it breaks down the paint and it gets into the actual wood, you start to have wood rot. And so you can kind of see on this board, it's kind of spongy here. That's obviously not good. This board doesn't quite need to be replaced yet, but if if it was one more winter, maybe two more winters, it would need to be replaced. So you can kind of see here where it's smushy. What we recommend doing in these areas, number one is you've got to scrape off all the old peeling paint or peeling caulking, using a 5-in-1 or using some type of putty tool, just to scrape off all that peeling caulking or peeling paint. So first step is you scrape off the peeling paint. Then you want to use a high quality primer. And primer is just like a good sealant. It's kind of like a glue of your house. So you put a primer coat down, which is really a lot better for paint to adhere to. And then finally, you'll do that top coat of paint. So that's what we recommend doing for these types of areas here. In Colorado, like I mentioned, we do get hail quite often. You can kind of see here, there has been some hail damage on this house in the past. So if you see little nicks like this, that's a telltale sign of hail. Not too bad on this house, right? The problem with hail is it damages the wood. Unless you replace this board, you can't do much about that. What you can do though is you can prime, scrape off any of the old stuff and then prime these areas, seal them up, and hopefully they last a little bit longer. Now these are areas though that you want to watch out for over the course of the next few years after painting, because they're kind of what we call like high danger or high exposure areas to things like hail, water sitting on there and ultimately rot. Okay, so one of the biggest issues we see in Colorado is cracked caulking, specifically around joints where trim meets the siding or where window trim can meet the vinyl window. You'll see gaps like this. The problem with this, besides that it doesn't look great, that's not really a problem. The problem is now water can get in there, start to rot the board from the inside out. So then before you know it, it's too late and you've got to replace all the siding. One thing you can tell is like if the corners start to kind of flay out like this, then you need areas recalked. The fix is pretty straightforward. A common misconception is that you have to cut out all the old caulking. So we don't typically recommend cutting out the old caulking just because that can actually damage the wood even more. Unless it's like very kind of exposed like this. You can take large pieces out, but for the most part, this is good to go. What you want to do is basically two steps. One is you want to use a bead of caulking all the way down these areas. You've got to just simply push it in just with your finger or with like a rag, which will seal these up. You want to use a very good high quality caulking. It doesn't cost that much more than the cheap caulking. The high quality caulking though will actually move with the house as it expands and contracts. It doesn't crack as quickly. Caulk these areas up, then use a nice top coat of paint. You're good to go hopefully for 7 to 10 years. Pretty much anywhere you see a black dot, that is a sunken nail hole. Our homes in Colorado expand and contract quite a bit. So over time, nails can more penetrate the siding. What also happens is water's running down, sitting on these ledges and starting to swell the board up. What we recommend doing is actually using a high grade caulking to seal these nail holes up and to kind of make it flush. Then the water will run over the caulking and off the house instead of into that nail hole. Okay, now this is an area that even seasoned painters can miss. Underside of your siding peeling. So what's happening here, if you look at all these ledges of your siding, basically water is running down, sitting on these ledges, soaking up into the board before it drips down to the next board. These are really problem areas because once this peels enough, basically, especially this type of siding, it's like a notebook. You know, when you get a notebook wet, it curves and it also expands. When this expands too much, you've got to just replace the boards, which is way more expensive than just, repairing and repainting these areas. We recommend a pretty simple process. It is time consuming, just like caulking the nail holes, but it's definitely worth the time. Well, first what we'll do is we'll scrape off all this kind of peeling, just dead, what we call just like dead paint. So we'll scrape off all this. Again, really this whole north side of this home, we'll need all of it re-scraped. So we'll scrape all this off. Then we'll come in and use a good, thick, high quality primer. And you want to prime it bottom inch of this board and then the top inch of this board. So you want to prime from here all the way to like here. So you'll see if people are prepping homes right, you'll see stripes all over their home. And that's what this is that's actually priming these areas just to seal these boards up and make sure they don't rot. Then we'll use a top coat, just like everywhere else. We use a good top coat and seal these areas up, and hopefully it lasts a good 7 to 10 years. If you see drip marks like that on your gutter, what that is basically your gutters are full, and so water's running over and then running down the house, which is going to lead to more of that wood rot and that kind of peeling siding. For this, we recommend getting your gutters cleaned out. It doesn't go over the gutter, down the house, and start to ruin everything, right? All right, I hope that was helpful. I hope you can now assess your home for damage. If you are looking to paint your home this year or next year or whenever, give us a call, 970-286-0060. Thanks for watching and have a great day.